Hey guys, tonight we're not going to parachute behind enemy lines with the elite of the military. We're not going to plan the invasion of Europe in a war room with cigar-smoking generals, nor are we going to lead a tank across flaming battlefields. Tonight, we're going to do something much more common and much more terrifying. We'll enlist out of boredom, vomit on an overcrowded troop ship, and inherit the rifle of a dead man whose name we'll never know. Forget the bravery charges, the cartoonish villains, and the inspiring speeches that unite men. Today we delve into the real thing, into the mud of Normandy that sucks your boots, into the frozen hell of the Ardennes that steals your soul, into the crushing boredom, the abject fear, and the senseless bureaucracy that is the true face of war for the common man. This is the true story of what happened to an infantryman in World War II. And spoiler alert, much of it wasn't about fighting the enemy, but about fighting cold, hunger, and sanity itself. It's a long saga, taking us from the naive optimism of small-town America to the ashes of a ruined Europe, and the haunting silence that comes after. So before you get ready for battle, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But as always, only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always fascinating to see what corners of the world our company is forming from. Now turn off the lights. Maybe find a recording of rain or the distant sound of thunder to set the mood. And let's go to the front lines together. The year is 1943 and your life is gray. It's the color of the Ohio sky in November, the color of your gas station attendant's uniform, and the color of the future that stretches out before you like an empty, endless road. You spend your days pumping gas, cleaning windshields, and listening to the radio talk about places with exotic and scary names. Guadalcanal, Stalingrad, Sicily. These places don't seem real. They're background noise to your monotonous existence. Your big adventure of the week is deciding whether to spend your spare change at the movies or on a burger. And then you see it. On the wall of the post office, hanging crookedly but glowing with a color that seems so bright, it seems illegal. It's a poster. An American soldier, chin high, helmet slightly tilted, smiling a confident white smile. Behind him, an American flag flaps in a breeze you can't feel, but believe is there. The slogan below it reads, "It's time to become a man." The poster haunts you. It's not just selling war, it's selling an escape. A way out of the gray monotony. A promise of purpose. That soldier in the poster isn't worried about the price of gas or whether it's going to rain this weekend. He's making history, he's seeing the world, he's got brothers in arms at his side. You've got old Bill who complains about rheumatism. The decision is not a thunderclap of patriotism, it is a whisper of desperation. On a Tuesday night, you and your friend Jimmy, who works at the grocery store, are sitting on the hood of your Ford. "I can't take another year of this," he says. You just nod. The next day, you go to the recruiting station. An officer with a belly that protrudes over his belt gives you a weary smile, some papers to sign, and a pat on the back. "Welcome to the United States Army, boys," he says. "You'll be proud." You feel proud. You feel like the men on the poster. It's the last time you'll feel that way for a long, long time. The first stop on your journey to heroic manhood is a group physical where you and 50 other guys stand naked and shivering in a cold room, while a doctor who looks about your age pokes and prods you like you're a piece of cattle. Then comes the train. The ride south to Fort Benning, Georgia is filled with boisterous, naive camaraderie. You smoke, play cards, and brag about what you're going to do to the Germans. You're still individuals. You still have names. Then the train stops, the doors open, and the dream dies. Outside on the platform stands a being who looks like he's been carved from rage and chewing tobacco. He wears a campaign hat that shades his eyes, but you can feel the contempt emanating from him. He's a drill sergeant. He opens his mouth and the sound that comes out isn't a human voice. It's a roar, a sound that rips your identity away and throws it to the gravel floor. Off the train, you princesses, move! 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 Chaos ensues. You stumble out and the world becomes a whirlwind of shouts. Get your stuff! Component placement. Line up. Component placement. Shut up. Component placement. Didn't I hear you call me sir? Within 10 minutes, you're doing push-ups on the gravel because you blinked in a way the sergeant deemed disrespectful. Your first official army haircut takes 12 seconds and removes not only your hair but any semblance of personality you had. Then comes the uniform. It's not the fancy uniform on the poster. It's rough wool that scratches your neck, and the fit looks like it was chosen by someone who personally hates you. You look in a mirror and see a frightened stranger with big ears. Goodbye, John from Ohio. Hello, Private, a serial number sewn into your clothes. Your new home is a long wooden barracks that smells of stale sweat, disinfectant, and pent-up despair. You learn that your new religion is mud. You wake before sunrise to the sound of a whistle piercing your skull. You run in the mud. You do push-ups in the mud. You crawl under barbed wire in the mud. The sergeant, whose name is the one thing you are more afraid of knowing than not knowing, seems to feed on your exhaustion. He has a PhD in deception, and his master's thesis was you. His every insult is a work of art. You are not slow. You are slower than a fucking funeral on an incline. You are not out of shape. You are built like a sack of diseased potatoes. And then there is the concept that governs it all. Hurry up and wait. You rush to the mess hall screaming, only to stand in line for 20 minutes. You rush to formation, standing at perfect attention, only to wait an hour in the hot sun because an officer forgot something. You spend 3 hours cleaning your M1 Garand rifle until it shines like a jewel, only to have the sergeant throw it in the mud and tell you to start over. You learn that the goal is not to have a clean rifle. The goal is to teach you that your will doesn't matter. The goal is to break you down into little pieces and then reassemble you into a soldier. A soldier doesn't think. A soldier doesn't feel. A soldier obeys. Absurdity is your constant companion. You spend an entire afternoon learning the correct way to fold your socks. Another afternoon, you are tasked with painting rocks white to mark the path to the barracks. The next day, the sergeant decides he wants the rocks green. You paint them green. The goal is not to have pretty rocks. It is to teach you that your notion of logic or purpose is irrelevant. Amid the chaos, there are moments of terrifying clarity. The first day at the range, you hold the Garand. It's heavy, solid, made of wood and steel. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. Then you fire. The recoil hits your shoulder like a punch. The sound is a blast that deafens you for a second. You feel the power of the thing, and you realize with a cold clarity that this tool was not made for painting rocks or folding socks. It was designed for a single terrible purpose: to punch holes in other human beings. War, once an abstract idea, suddenly weighs 9 pounds in your hands. Weeks turn into months. The boy who arrived on the train is gone. In his place is a thinner, tougher, more tired version of you. You can do 50 push-ups without crying. You can assemble and disassemble your rifle with your eyes closed. You can sleep amid the snoring and groaning of 80 men. and you have learned to hate. You hate the sergeant, you hate the mud, you hate the morning whistle, you hate the food. This hate unites you with others. You are not brothers in arms. You are complicit in the same shared misery. One night you get your first letter from home. It's from your mother. She's so proud. She tells you how everyone in town talks about her hero. She asks if the adventure is everything you hoped it would be. You read the letter in the dim light of a single bulb in the barracks. You stare at the words hero and adventure, and you start to laugh. A quiet, bitter laugh that shakes your shoulders. Your friend in the next bunk, a kid from Brooklyn you thought you hated but now tolerate, looks at you. He doesn't ask why you're laughing. He knows. He's probably gotten a similar letter. You stand and look at your reflection in a dirty window pane. A stranger with a shaved head and empty eyes stares back at you. The poster on the wall at the post office promised you that you would become a man. He just didn't mention that to do that. They would first have to kill the boy. And at that, they are terribly efficient. You graduate from basic training. There's a small ceremony, a speech from an officer you've never met before, and permission to wear an infantry patch on your shoulder. For a brief, delirious moment, you feel like a soldier. You've survived the drill sergeant, the mud, the humiliation. You feel ready. Ready for war? You're not ready for the ocean. After an equally miserable train ride where you are crammed in with hundreds of others, you arrive in New York. You see the Statue of Liberty out the window, but not from the perspective of a hopeful immigrant. You see her from the back waving goodbye. She seems to be wishing you good luck with a look of pity. In the harbor, your next home is waiting. It is not a sleek gray warship. It is a transport ship, a converted freighter that looks like a rusting, floating metal barn. Its name is something noble like SS Hope or the SS Liberty, a touch of irony that only the government can produce. You walk up the gangplank in an endless line. Sailors and military police shout new orders in a new accent. You go down and down and down into the bowels of the ship. The air changes. It becomes thick and hot and heavy, with the smell of paint and diesel fuel and the sweat of thousands of men who have come before you. You find your quarters. It is a canvas stretched between two metal bars, stacked 6 high. The space between your face and the springs of the top bunk is less than a hand's breadth. You can study the stitching pattern of the canvas while trying not to think about the fact that if the ship sinks, you will be at the bottom of a steel trap. The ship leaves the harbor. For the first few miles in the calm bay, there is a feeling of nervous excitement. You are on your way. The great adventure. Then the ship hits the open Atlantic, and the ground disappears. The first lurch is gentle, almost pleasant. The second is deeper, a long, slow groan of the ship. By the third, your stomach decides it wants to divorce itself from the rest of your body. The grand symphony of vomiting begins. A young man from Texas is the first in your compartment. His wet, desperate sound is the starting gun. Within minutes, the place becomes a pandemonium of men vomiting. The smell, already bad, transcends into something indescribable, a biological weapon. The metal buckets designated for this purpose fill and overflow. The floor becomes a skating rink of misery. You, clinging to your bunk, feel your own stomach rebel. You join the chorus. You've imagined many ways to fight for your country. Cleaning an Iowa boy's vomit off your boots wasn't on the list. The days blur into a blur of nausea. The lucky few who don't get seasick are assigned cleaning duties, which makes them the most hated men on board. The Navy transports us, the Army feeds us. Apparently, the two organizations are in a fierce competition to see which one can make you the most miserable. As the physical sickness subsides into low-grade misery, a new kind of fear sets in. A silent, invisible fear. The U-boats. Hitler's gray wolves. You know they're out there beneath the gray, choppy waves. You're sailing in a convoy, dozens of ships like yours, protected by a few destroyers that look like nervous guard dogs circling a flock. The enemy is the ocean. Every creak of the ship's hull makes your heart pound. Every unfamiliar sound. The alarms for the abandoned ship drill are the worst. A shrill bell rings, and you have 2 minutes to grab your life jackets and run to your muster stations on deck. It's a rehearsed panic. Thousands of men trying to climb narrow, slippery ladders, pushing, cursing, stumbling. You reach the deck, the cold wind and sea spray pelting your faces. You look out at the dark, icy water and wonder how far it is to the nearest lifeboat. And then a voice over a megaphone announces, "End of drill." You retreat to your stinking lairs, relief mixed with anger. The drill is almost as terrifying as the real thing. At night, in your bunks, you exchange rumors. Stories of ships that weren't so lucky. Ships hit by torpedoes in the middle of the night, sinking in minutes. Men trapped below like you. Men who made it out, only to freeze to death in the water or burn in flaming oil slicks. The stories are told in whispers. They don't help, but no one can stop telling them. Sleep is hard. You close your eyes and feel the steady throb of the ship's engines, wondering if it will suddenly stop. To protect itself, the ship sails in a constant zigzag pattern, making it harder for a U-boat to time a torpedo shot. The irony, of course, is that this erratic movement is precisely what makes seasickness unbearable. The maneuver designed to save your life is actively trying to make you wish for death. When you're not scared or vomiting, you're bored. A boredom so deep and all-encompassing it's almost a physical experience. Time stretches and flattens. What do you do in a floating steel coffin for 2 weeks? You gamble. Poker and blackjack games that last for days, with men losing their entire pay before they even get near a battlefield. You read. Paperbacks with the covers torn off, passed from hand to hand until the pages disintegrate. You write letters home. Letters full of optimistic lies. The trip is great. The food is good. I can't wait to get there. Don't worry. Every word is fiction. The censor would cut out the truth anyway. And you stare out to sea. For hours on end, leaning against the rail, watching the gray waves rise and fall. There is nothing. Just water, gray sky, and other ships in the convoy. All full of men like you, all equally miserable. The world has been reduced to this tiny dot of metal and fear. After what seems like a lifetime, something changes. A rumor spreads faster than a bout of diarrhea. Land. At first you don't believe it. It's just another story. But then you go up on deck and see it. A dark green smudge on the horizon. The coast of Scotland or Ireland. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. A collective cry of relief runs through the ship. Men cry, men laugh. You did it. The ship docks in a British port. The air that enters for the first time does not smell of vomit and diesel. It smells of coal and rain and wet earth. It is the smell of salvation. You step down the gangplank, your legs shaking on solid ground. The ground seems to sway beneath your feet, a parting gift from the ocean. You're standing on foreign soil. You've survived the ferry to hell. You think the worst is over. That's what the army does best. It gives you a brief moment of relief, only to have the next phase of your misery seem even more shocking by comparison. The crossing was just the journey. The real work is about to begin. The first thing you notice about dry land is that it moves. Or maybe it's you. Your legs, accustomed to the perpetual rocking of the ship, treat the solid ground of Britain with a deep distrust. You stagger off the gangplank, feeling drunk. The air is cold and damp and smells of coal and rain. It's the smell of a country that's been at war for 4 years and is tired of it. The relief of surviving the Atlantic lasts about 12 minutes. That's how long it takes for the sergeants and British military police, red caps, to sort out the chaos and herd them onto another train. As the train rolls across the landscape, you see an England that wasn't in the leaflets. It's green, yes, but it's a melancholy green under a perpetually gray sky. You see barrage balloons floating like silver elephants over the cities. You pass buildings with gaping holes, their guts exposed, scars from the Blitz. You realize that you haven't arrived at a starting point. You've arrived in the middle of a fight that's been going on for a long time. Your new home is a camp somewhere in the south of England. The name of the place is irrelevant. What matters is the mud. The army, in its infinite wisdom, taught you to hate the mud in Georgia, just so you could appreciate the unique qualities and richer texture of British mud. It is colder, stickier, and seems to have a personal ambition to infiltrate every fiber of your being. The camp is a collection of Nissen huts, which look like giant metal tin cans cut in half. They are cold, damp, and echoing. In the center of each one, a small coal stove fights a losing battle against the damp, producing more smoke than heat. And then the waiting begins. The war that seemed so imminent now becomes a distant rumor. Your life becomes a routine of muddy boredom. You wake up, do physical exercises in the rain, march through the mud, eat questionable food, clean your rifle, and wait. Wait for what? No one knows. The orders are to train and be ready. The training is a rehash of what you've already done, but with a British twist. You practice landings on pebble beaches that look like they're designed to break ankles. You're forced to march along narrow country roads, passing villages with unpronounceable names. You're given leaflets with phrases in French and German. Où est la gare? Where's the station? Hände hoch. Hands up. The phrases sound ridiculous, disconnected from reality. You can't imagine asking a German soldier where the train station is. Food is a new adventure in misery. It's an Anglo-American culinary collaboration that no one asked for. The American Army provides the Spam, the powdered eggs, and the coffee that still tastes of dirt. The British contribute boiled potatoes, Brussels sprouts that look like little balls of bitterness, and a strangely dense bread. It's fuel, not pleasure. Staying warm and dry is a full-time job. Your leather boots never dry completely. You sleep with your wet socks on, hoping the heat will dry them by morning. It usually doesn't work. Occasionally you get a pass to the next village. It's a trip to another planet. The local pub is the center of the universe. It's a dark, smoky place that smells of stale beer and pipe tobacco. You order a pint and are given a glass of a warm, dark, flat liquid called bitters. It tastes like liquid bread. The natives, as you call them, are a quiet, reserved people. They've been at war for years. Their families have been bombed. Their sons are fighting in Burma or Italy. They look at you, the Yanks, with a mixture of gratitude and resentment. You're loud. You're flush with money. Your pay is a fortune compared to that of a British soldier. And you have access to things they haven't seen for years, like chocolate and real cigarettes. You're overpaid, oversexed, and over here, as the local joke goes. The language barrier is subtle and constant. You learn that chips are French fries, but crisps are potato chips. A lorry is a truck. And you learn the hard way not to ask for a fag when you want a cigarette. It's a constant reminder that you're not at home. Real war manifests itself in strange ways. At night, lying in your bunk, you hear it. A low, deep hum that builds to a thunder that vibrates in your bones. It's the bombers. Hundreds of them. Lancasters and B-17s, flying high over your head, heading for Germany. You hear them go, a river of death in the night sky, and you lie awake, waiting to hear them return, noticing that the sound of their return is always a little fainter, with fewer engines. Each silent engine is a plane that didn't return. The war suddenly is real. As spring 1944 approaches, the atmosphere in camp changes. The relaxed routine, if it ever was, disappears. Boredom is replaced by an electric tension. Passes to the village are canceled. The camp is sealed. Training becomes more intense. You begin to use live ammunition. In one exercise, a boy from another platoon is killed by a ricochet. The accident is hushed up. The death is now a fellow trainee. Rumors spread like wildfire. Invasion. It's coming soon. Everyone becomes an expert strategist. Let's go to Norway. No, it's the south of France to split their forces. Calais. Yeah, it has to be Calais. It's the closest point. The word invasion is whispered everywhere. Men grow quiet, irritable. Fights break out over trivial matters. You find yourself cleaning your rifle for hours, not because you have to, but because it's something to do with your hands, something to focus your mind. One day, the order comes. You must write one last letter home. The letter will be kept and sent only later. After what, no one has to say. It is a moment of cold, terrifying clarity. You sit on your bunk with paper and pen. What do you say? How do you sum it all up? How do you say goodbye without saying goodbye? You stare at the blank page. In the end, you write the same old lies. Hi, Mum, I'm fine. England is nice, but it rains a lot. Good food. Don't worry about me. Love, John. The letter feels heavy, a final, definitive lie. The wait ends with a shout. Get ready, full combat gear, move. There is no more training. This is for real. The air in the barracks is thick with fear. Men silently check their equipment, sharpen bayonets, exchange cigarettes with shaking hands. There are no heroic speeches, just short, efficient orders. You are herded into trucks that are taken to a port. This time, it's not a transport ship. It's a landing craft. Smaller, flatter, gray, and with a big ramp at the front that looks like a mouth. It looks like a coffin designed to float. You climb in, shoulder to shoulder, so tightly packed you can barely breathe. The ramp rises with a metallic groan, plunging you into darkness. The sound of the engines comes to life, a deep vibration that rises through the floor and into your bones. The boat begins to move. The wait is over. You almost wish it wasn't over. You're finally going to war. And it's waiting for you on the other side of a small stretch of dark water. The landing craft's ramp hits the sand with a heart-stopping crash. You and the others brace for hell. For machine guns, mortars, the chaos you've seen in the newsreels. You run for the beach, hunched over, rifle heavy, expecting the buzz of death at any second. But he doesn't come. The dominant sound is not gunfire, but the sound of waves and wind. The beach is safe. The Battle of Normandy for this little spit of sand called Omaha has already happened. And you are the result. You are the reinforcements. You are late to the party, but in time to clean up the mess. The beach is not a beach. It is a graveyard of steel. Skeletons of landing craft lie stranded at low tide, rusting like the carcasses of metal whales. The sand is littered with craters, empty ammunition boxes, lonely boots, holy helmets, and the personal wreckage of the battle. It is an open-air museum of catastrophe. The air still has a sickly sweet smell that you cannot place, but your body recognizes as death. There is no glory here, there is only the archaeology of horror. You are quickly rounded up and marched inland to a place the veterans call Repo Depot. It is a miserable camp, a collection of muddy tents a few miles from the front. This is where you learn your true worth. You are not a liberator, you are not a hero, you are a spare part, you are human ammunition. The process is quick and impersonal. A tired-eyed lieutenant reads a list. Your name is called. Your friend Jimmy, who enlisted with you, is not. He is sent to another company. You shake hands awkwardly. See you in Paris, he says. You both know it is a lie. The friendship that has survived training and the ocean is dissolved by a clipboard. The army is very efficient. It has spare parts for everything. Jeep engines, rifle barrels, and human beings. Charlie Company, 2nd Platoon, the lieutenant says to you. They've taken heavy losses in the last sector. They need riflemen. Good luck. The way he says good luck isn't encouraging. It's like a butcher wishing the best for his pig. A truck takes you as far as it can. The sound of war grows louder, no longer a distant thunder, but a clear, percussive sound. Thump, thump, thump of mortars. The rip of canvas from a German machine gun, the MG-42, which the boys call Hitler's saw. You jump out of the truck and start walking. The smell of death grows stronger. You pass a dead, bloated cow in the field, its legs in the air. You pass the ruins of a small village, each house an empty shell. Finally, a sergeant comes out of a hole in the ground to meet him. This sergeant is different from your drill sergeant. That one was made of anger. This one is made of exhaustion. He's about 25, but his eyes look like they're 100. He doesn't ask your name. He doesn't even look at your face. He looks at his rifle. Another refill, he spits. Not at you, but into the air. He points with his chin toward a thick hedge. Your platoon is over there, 2nd hole on the right. Try not to get killed before dinner. You find your new home. It's not a trench. It's a series of individual foxholes, dug into the base of a thick hedge. You find the 2nd hole on the right and introduce yourself to the man in it. He's a veteran. You can tell by his 3-day beard, his sunken eyes, and the way he never stops scanning the trees across the field. He looks you up and down. Repo? He asks. You nod. He sighs. Great. The last one lasted 6 hours. He doesn't ask your name. You don't ask his. There's an unspoken code. Names are for friends. Friends die. It's easier if you don't know the name. The sergeant comes back. He tosses you a helmet. Wear this one. Yours shines too brightly. The helmet has a dent in the side and a dark stain on the inside. You don't ask. He tosses you an ammunition belt. The last guy's. He doesn't need it anymore. You inherit a dead man's life. You are a ghost occupying the space that a warm body occupied this morning. In the afternoon, a patrol comes back dragging something. It's your first encounter with the enemy. A dead German soldier. They throw him to the ground like a sack of potatoes so the lieutenant can search his pockets for documents. You can't stop staring. He doesn't look like the monster on the posters. He's a boy. Maybe 17. Blonde hair, smeared with blood and dirt. His gray uniform is torn. One of his boots is missing. He looks scared, even in death. In his pocket, they find a wallet with a picture of a smiling girl. The same picture you have of your girlfriend. The propaganda dies right there next to that boy's body. These aren't monsters. They're just boys in a different uniform. And your job is to kill each other. Night falls, and with it, true terror. The darkness on the battlefield is not peaceful. It is alive. Every sound is a threat. The rustle of a leaf, a twig snapping, the veteran in his hole grabs you. "Be quiet," he whispers, his body tense. You listen. Nothing. "Probably just a rabbit," he mutters. "Or a German sniper repositioning. Sleep on it." You don't sleep. You can't. The cold of the earth creeps up your body, and then the night mail begins. The artillery. First, the distant sound of a thump. Seconds of tense silence. And then the sound of a freight train passing 100 yards overhead. A rising whistle that ends in an explosion that shakes the earth and rains dirt and shrapnel into your hole. First, it's your guns firing away. Then it's theirs, firing close. You huddle deep in your hole, trying to melt into the earth, praying to a god you're no longer sure you believe in. The veteran next to him is impassive. He's heard this song 1,000 times. "This is nothing," he says flatly. "Wait until they start using the naval warfers. Those scream when they come. Dawn finally arrives, a sickly gray that reveals a misty world. You've survived your first night. You're exhausted, terrified, but alive. The veteran looks at you, a new appreciation in his eyes. You've lasted more than 6 hours. Maybe you're not such a waste of equipment after all. "What's your name, boy?" he asks. You tell him. He nods. "Okay, try to stay alive until lunch." War is no longer an idea, a place on a map, or a sound on the radio. It is this hole in the ground. It is the man beside you. And it is the cold fear that you will never get out of here. Dawn breaks. The world is no longer your hole in the ground. The world is now a 100-yard field. A green, idyllic field with a few cows grazing peacefully in the distance. Or what used to be cows are now grotesque, swollen mounds. On the other side of the field is a hedge. It is not a garden fence. It is an ancient wall of earth, stone, and roots over 1,000 years old, covered in vegetation so dense it could hide an army. And indeed it does. Not an army, but something worse. A few well-dug-in men with an MG-42 machine gun, a mortar, and the patience of a spider. The order comes, passed from hole to hole in hoarse whispers. We're going forward. Fire and movement. Second platoon in front. Your second platoon. A dubious honor. The veteran in your hole, a man named Abe, who you've learned is from Chicago, just spits on the ground. "Dance of death," he mutters. "Stay low and run like hell." The preparation is a short, noisy lie. Your own mortars fire a few shells into the enemy hedgerow. They explode in clouds of smoke and dirt. It is a gesture that serves more to calm your nerves than to annoy the enemy. They are too entrenched. Then the whistle blows. It's a thin, almost pathetic sound, but it has the power to tear you from the relative safety of your hole and throw you out into the open. You stand up. The world seems to explode with sound and speed. You run, hunched over, your rifle clumsy, your equipment flapping against your back. The open field seems vast as an ocean. You feel naked, exposed, a comically large target. And then Hitler's saw begins to sing. The sound of an MG-42 is not like that of other weapons. It is not a bong bong bong. It is a ripior, a continuous sound of canvas being ripped at a deafening volume. The green tracer bullets cut through the air above your head with as if snapped. The air feels solid, full of invisible, deadly wasps. You fall to the ground, face down in the mud, your heart trying to leap out of your throat. A man a few feet in front of you screams and falls, a tangle of limbs. No one stops. To stop is to die. You crawl into a small depression in the ground, the only shelter you can find. You are trapped. In front of you, the hedgerow is spitting fire. Behind you, your starting point. You are in the middle. The sergeant shouts orders, but you can barely hear them. Suppressing fire, suppressing fire. You lift your head for a second, long enough to support your garand. You don't see a target. You don't see soldiers. You see the hedge. Just a wall of dark green. You point to where you saw the machine gun flashes and pull the trigger. Bang. The rifle kicks into your shoulder. The 8-round clip empties with a ping characteristic metallic sound. A sound that, you will learn, is an invitation to death, as it signals to the enemy that you are reloading. The dance continues. Some men run, others shoot. Someone throws a smoke grenade. The white smoke provides poor cover. Advance! The sergeant shouts. You get up and run again, stumbling, your lungs burning. You reach the base of the hedge. For a moment, there is silence. You have made it. You are in the dead zone below the angle of fire of the machine gun. But silence is a trap. From above the hedge, German potato beater grenades with their long wooden handles rain down on you. Thump. Thump. Abe grabs you and pulls you aside. Grenade! You both flinch as the explosion throws dirt and shrapnel. A high-pitched scream rings out. The medic crawls toward him. Medic! The most common and desperate cry on the battlefield. Now it's your turn. You pull the pin on your own grenade, your heart pounding. You throw it over the hedge, not aiming, just praying. The explosion is followed by a guttural scream. A sound that isn't quite human. You don't feel victorious. You feel sick. You've just done that. You've just shut out a sound from the world. Finally, some men with a flamethrower manage to reach a flank. A jet of orange liquid fire roars over the hedge. The screams that follow are the worst you've ever heard. They don't last long. The shooting dies down. The order is given to take the hedge. You climb the earthen rampart, rifle ready. On the other side is a machine gun nest. 3 German soldiers lie there, dead. One of them, the one you assume was the victim of your grenade, is horribly mutilated. The other is burned, a black, hideous statue. You look away. The smell of bursting flesh mingles with that of cordite and earth. Congratulations! You have just become a property owner in France. Your new property is a 1 by 2 meter hole with excellent ventilation, recently vacated by its previous tenants. Abe sits down beside him, his hands shaking as he lights a cigarette. Not bad, kid, he says, but there's no praise in his voice. It's just a statement of fact. You're not dead. As you regroup, reality sets in. It took you 3 hours, 5 casualties, 2 dead, 3 wounded, to advance 100 yards. And you can see from the top of this hedge the next field. And the next hedge. And the next after that. It's a chessboard stretching to the horizon, and you are the pawns, advancing 1 square at a time. The war in the hedgerows teaches you the real rules. Rule number 1. Your life is measured in seconds. Rule number 2. Heroism is a quick way to need a replacement. Rule number 3. The only thing that matters is the man in the hole next to you. 2 weeks later, that rule is tested. You're in another hedgerow under another mortar bombardment. You and Abe are sharing a hole. A shell explodes nearby. You flinch. When the dust clears, Abe is staring at you, but his eyes are blank. A single small piece of metal has entered his helmet, just above his eye. There's no blood, no drama. He just stopped. He was talking to you about the Chicago Cubs baseball team a second ago. Now he's just meat. You sit by his body for an hour waiting for the shelling to stop. You don't cry. You don't feel anything. A cold, heavy emptiness settles in your chest. The medics finally take him away. The sergeant points to another recruit, a fresh-faced repo who arrived yesterday. He's staying with you, the sergeant says. The new boy looks at you with terrified eyes. You ignore him. You don't want to know his name. That night, you take Abe's K rations. You eat the hard cracker and the piece of processed cheese. You're hungry. Life goes on. You've become a veteran. The transformation process is complete. The boy from Ohio is buried somewhere under the mud of Normandy. In his place is a survivor, an animal who has learned to dig, to shoot what he can't see, and to feel nothing. It's the only way to keep from going crazy. The autumn of 1944 is a lie. After the meat grinder of Normandy, you advance rapidly across France. German resistance seems to be crumbling. There is a euphoria in the air, a dangerous spark of optimism. The talk in the platoon changes. It is no longer about how to survive the next hour, but about what you will do when you return home. Home by Christmas, say the newspapers and the officers. You almost believe it. You are the conquering heroes, the liberators. The war is as good as won. Then you reach the German border, and you enter the forest. Its name is Hürtgen, an ugly name for an ugly place. It is no fairy tale forest. It is a dark, impenetrable mass of tall pines that block out the sun, creating a perpetual twilight beneath their canopies. The ground is a tangle of roots, rocks, and deep, cold mud that never dries. The advance has stopped. The war of movement is over. Welcome to the war of attrition. And then the weather changes. The freezing autumn rain turns to sleet, then to snow. The enemy changes. It's not just the German soldier anymore. Now your main enemy is the planet itself. The government has given you a wool coat, leather boots, and a rifle. Winter has given you minus 20 degrees Celsius. You suspect that winter will win. The cold is a living creature. It seeps into your wool uniform, which is always damp. It seeps into your boots, no matter how many socks you wear. You learn to sleep in 15-minute spasms, shivering uncontrollably, huddled against another man in your foxhole satte. Not for camaraderie, but for a desperate exchange of body heat. You wake up with your beard frozen solid and your canteen turned into a block of solid ice. Your new obsession is your feet. You inspect them constantly. They are always pale and wrinkled. You hear about trench foot. You see men who get it. Their feet swell, turn blue, then black. The skin rots and peels off. They are evacuated, screaming in pain, not from a bullet wound, but from something the dampness itself has done to them. A pair of dry socks becomes more valuable than a chocolate bar, more precious than a letter from home. It is the coin of the realm in this frozen hell. The forest itself is a weapon. The Germans have been here for months. They know every trail, every clearing, and they have recorded it all with their artillery. But this is not the normal artillery you saw in Normandy. Here they have perfected a form of torture called tree bursts. explosions in the trees. Here's how it works. The artillery shell is set to explode not on impact with the ground, but on contact with the highest branches of the trees. The explosion happens above you, and it rains death. A shower of hot steel shrapnel, and even worse, thousands of sharp splinters of wood that are just as deadly as metal. Your foxhole, your home, your sanctuary offers no protection from something coming from above. You cower deep inside, your helmet on your head, listening to the hiss of death approaching and praying that it chooses the tree next to you, not yours. The sound of a giant tree snapping and falling into the darkness becomes the soundtrack to your nightmares. The days are a monotony of misery. You lie in your hole, shivering, waiting for the bombing, waiting for the order to advance, waiting to die. The food is a joke. The K rations freeze. You have to heat the can of processed cheese over a small candle to make it edible. The water tastes of metal and disinfectant. And then, just when you think things can't get any worse, the world splits in two. It's December 16th. It starts with a rumble, then a tremor in the earth. A noise that isn't the usual bombardment. It's deeper, more constant. 1,000,000 engines. The Battle of the Bulge has begun. The Germans, whom you thought were defeated and in retreat, have launched a massive and desperate counteroffensive across the Ardennes. Where once there were a handful of weary soldiers, there are now elite SS panzer divisions. The rumors reaching your position are terrifying. Entire units are being wiped out. Lines are crumbling. You, the conquerors, are suddenly on the defensive. Chaos ensues. Your company is rushed to fill a breach. You march through deep snow, exhausted, hardly knowing where you are going. You dig new positions in the frozen earth, breaking pickaxes into the hard roots. The blizzard is so intense that visibility is only a few meters. The enemy could be anywhere. The fear of shooting your own men is as great as the fear of the Germans. You are surrounded. Supply lines are cut. Ammunition is running low. Every bullet is precious. Hunger, which was a constant pain, now becomes an acute threat. You eat snow to quench your thirst. The sergeant, the man with the dead eyes, now seems even more like a ghost. But he keeps you together. With curses, with threats, with sheer willpower. You are in a foxhole on the outskirts of a Belgian town whose name you cannot pronounce. Bastogne, perhaps. The snow falls incessantly, covering everything with a silent white blanket that seems to mock the violence below. You no longer think of Christmas. You no longer think of home. Your universe has shrunk to this frozen hole. Your life goals, once so grand, are now simple. Don't freeze to death. Make your last 3 rounds of ammo last. Don't let the German patrol you hear whispering in the fog. Find your hole. You look at the new recruit beside you, a 17-year-old boy who arrived a week ago and still hasn't stopped shaking. His face is blue from the cold, his eyes wide with terror. You, the cynical veteran, feel a pang of something you thought you'd lost. Pity. You break your last frozen cookie in half and hand him a piece. He cries silently as he eats. There is no heroism here. There is no glory. The ideology, the reason you enlisted, has evaporated in the cold and fear. You are no longer an American soldier fighting for freedom. You are an animal trapped in a den, trying to survive the longest, cruelest winter of your life. The forest is a grinding machine, and you are slowly being pulverized by its gears. The only question that remains is whether it will be a bullet, a piece of shrapnel, or the cold itself that finally breaks you. The thaw comes like a reluctant pardon. The snow melts, revealing what winter hid. A world of gray and brown, dotted with the frozen bodies of men and machines. The earth heaves a damp sigh, releasing the smell of mud and decay. You, the survivors of the frozen hell, emerge from your dens like animals that have resisted hibernation. You are gaunt, dirty, with the eyes of old men. Half your original platoon is gone. The new repos who arrived look at you with the same awed terror you once felt for the veterans of Normandy. You have become the ghost in the foxhole. The order is to advance into Germany, cross the Rhine. There is a sense of finality in the air. The war is no longer about surviving. It is about ending it. You advance, and this time the resistance is different. It is desperate, fanatical, and somehow pathetic. You are no longer fighting professional soldiers. You are fighting Germany. In one village, the defense consists of a dozen men of the Volkssturm, the People's Militia. They are old men in their 50s and 60s, with uniforms that do not fit them, and rifles from the First World War. They fight with futile stubbornness and die on their own doorsteps. There is no satisfaction in killing them, only a bitter taste, like bile. In another city, you are attacked by a group of Hitler Youth, the Hitler Youth. Boys of 15, 16, with faces like angels and eyes full of a fanatical hatred that you cannot comprehend. They fight with a suicidal ferocity, using their Panzerfaust's anti-tank rocket launchers with deadly accuracy before being mown down by their overwhelming response. You see one of them fall, his young face contorted, and you feel like vomiting. He is younger than your brother back home. The war, you realize, has come to devour its own children. You are now an occupying army. You enter German towns that wave white flags, sheets, tablecloths, whatever, from every window. The civilians look at you with a mixture of fear and suppressed hatred. They are women, children, old people. They seem normal. At night, you take over a house for shelter. The German family is moved to the basement. You sleep in a soft bed for the first time in months. On the bedside table is a photograph of a smiling German soldier. Their son, probably. Maybe he's dead in a trench in Russia. Maybe he was one of those who shot you in the Hürtgen forest. You eat food from their pantry, look at the family portraits on the wall, and the clear line between good and evil that seemed so solid in the propaganda posters becomes an uncomfortable gray haze. The war becomes a series of surreal days. You advance, find a pocket of resistance, stamp it out, and move on. Death is still present, but now it seems even more meaningless. Dying in 1944 to stop the German advance was one thing. Dying in April 1945 when the war is clearly over is a sick, cosmic joke. You become careless, then superstitious. Everyone just wants to survive the last few weeks. And then you receive a strange order to investigate a camp on the outskirts of a town called Ohrdruf. Intelligence says it's a labor camp. You approach. The first thing that hits you is the smell. It's not the familiar smell of death on the battlefield. It's something new, something industrial. A sweet chemical smell of rotting flesh and greasy smoke that clings to the back of your throat and refuses to leave. The smell is so thick you can almost chew it. You reach the barbed wire gates. There are watchtowers, now empty. You enter, and the universe as you knew it falls apart. What you see first are the bodies, piles of them, stacked like cordwood. These are not soldiers' bodies. They are skeletons. Skeletons covered in thin, gray skin, dressed in striped uniforms that look like pajamas. Their limbs are twigs, their faces are skulls with their eyes still open, staring in a horror you cannot imagine. Then the living emerge. or what's left of them. They emerge from the barracks, blinking in the sunlight. They are ghosts. Men who weigh 60 pounds. Their eyes are black holes in their faces, empty of everything except a grief so deep it's a physical force. They don't cheer for you. They don't cry. They just stare, many of them staggering and falling, too weak to stand. You and the other soldiers, men hardened by months of brutal combat, stop. Silence falls over your platoon. A shocked, horrified silence. One of your men, a tough sergeant from Texas, steps away and vomits violently. You walk through the camp as if in a fever dream. You see the crematorium ovens, still glowing with residual heat. You see the piles of children's shoes, of eyeglasses, of human hair. There is no context for this. Nothing in his life, nothing in his training, nothing in Normandy or the Ardennes could have prepared him for this. This was not war. This was a factory. A factory whose raw material was human beings and whose end product was death. At that moment, you finally understand. You understand with a burning clarity against what you were fighting. It wasn't just the German army. It was the insanity that built this place. The rage you feel is cold and white and absolute. But there is no triumph in it. There is no satisfaction. The scale of evil is so vast, so incomprehensible that it obliterates all other feeling. Victory loses all meaning. What is victory in the face of that? It's like bragging about putting out a house fire after finding out the entire city has already been swallowed up by an earthquake. The war ends a few days later. You hear on the radio that Hitler is dead. Then the ceasefire is ordered. It is May 8th, 1945. Victory in Europe Day. There are no parades for you, no champagne. Just a sudden, deafening silence. The end of the war is not an explosion of joy. It is the sound of the guns stopping. Some men get drunk on German schnapps they have looted. Some weep silently, the weight of it all finally catching up with them. You just sit, leaning against a crumbling wall, cleaning your rifle out of habit. You don't know what else to do. You have won. Your nation has won. Freedom and justice have prevailed. All the words on the posters have come true, but they ring hollow. They turn to dust in your mouth. Because now you know what victory truly tastes like. It's the taste of ashes. The end of the war comes like a fever breaking. First there's a period of delirium. The news of the surrender, the sudden silence of the guns, the strange feeling of not having to wake up, thinking that this might be your last day. Then comes exhaustion. A weariness so deep that it settles into your bone marrow. You, the victors, are now an army of zombies wandering around a ruined Germany, waiting for the giant bureaucratic machine of the army to remember that you exist. The journey back is war in reverse. It is slow, disorganized, and full of waiting. You are moved from one camp to another, each a little further from the front, a little closer to the sea. You pass through Paris, you see the Eiffel Tower. It should be a moment of triumph. But you just stare at it, feeling nothing. It is just a metal structure. It does not compare in scale to what you saw in Ohrdruf. Finally, another ship. The return crossing is the opposite of the first. The ocean is calm. There is no fear of U-boats. The ship is noisy, not with the sound of men vomiting, but with the sound of gambling, loud laughter, and incessant talk about the future. About girls, jobs, cars. The men around you are desperate to be the boys they once were. You stand on the deck, chain smoking, watching the water. You try to feel cheerful. You can't. You feel like an outsider at a party you weren't invited to. Then, after an eternity, America appears on the horizon. The Statue of Liberty. This time, you're facing her. The woman next to you, an Air Force recruit who's never seen combat, is crying tears of joy. You just stare at her. She seems smaller than you remembered, a promise of a world you're no longer sure you can inhabit. Landing in New York is a chaos of joy. There are bands playing, Red Cross women handing out donuts and coffee, people in the streets waving and shouting, "Welcome, heroes!" Their gratitude is so overwhelming and so naive. They're rooting for a version of you that doesn't exist, the hero on the poster. They're not rooting for the exhausted, haunted animal who actually came back. You smile and wave, playing the role you've been assigned. The train home to Ohio is a journey through a dream. Everything is clean. Everything is whole. There are no ruined buildings, no bomb craters. People in the newspapers complain about gas shortages and the lack of nylon stockings. The triviality of their concerns is so deep, so vast that you feel a cold, distant anger. They have no idea. They have no idea at all. And you envy them for it. Your arrival in your hometown is a blur. Your mother hugs you, crying, telling you how skinny you are. Your father gives you a firm handshake, his eyes moist, unable to speak. Your girlfriend Mary is there. She's beautiful, just like the photos you uploaded. But when she hugs you, you feel stiff, strange. You smell of tobacco smoke and an exhaustion she'll never understand. You're a stranger to her now. The first few days back home are the hardest. You've become a local hero. People stop you on the street, pat you on the back, offer you drinks at the bar. And then the questions come. The same questions, over and over again. It was tough out there, huh? Yeah, you reply. Did you see a lot of action? I saw enough. Did you, kill any Germans? The question hits you like a punch. How do you respond to it? Do you remember the face of the Hitler Youth kid? The scream of the man your grenade hit? Do you remember the empty feeling afterward? You just look at them and say, "We did what we had to do." The conversation dies. They get uncomfortable. You quickly learn to either give them the answers they want or say nothing at all. Your own home has become a minefield. The sound of a car with a blown exhaust makes you dive to the ground before you realize what you are doing. Your mother, crying, tries to help you up. You cannot sleep in your soft, silent bed. Silence is the worst. It is in the silence that you hear the echoes. Reep, poff, the MG-42. The screams of the wounded. You wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, your heart pounding wildly, convinced that you are back in a foxhole in the Hurtgen forest. You try to go back to your old job at the gas station. The smell of gasoline makes you sick. The owner wants you to wear your uniform to attract customers. You quit on the second day. You try to hang out with your old friends. They talk about who's getting married, about baseball games. You try to join in, but your stories about winter in the Ardennes don't fit. You feel like a man of color in a black and white world. They don't understand your dark humor, your cynicism. The gap between your experience and theirs is unbridgeable. You start drinking more. The whiskey helps drown out the noises in your head. For a while. One evening, you're sitting on your front porch. It's a warm summer night. The sounds are peaceful. Crickets, children laughing in the distance, the faint music of a radio coming from a neighbor's house. It's peace. The peace you've supposedly fought for. The peace you've dreamed of in every frozen foxhole, and you feel nothing but a deep anxiety. The silence is wrong. The peace is fragile. You look at your hands lying in your lap. They are clean. No mud, no rifle grease, no other person's blood. But they don't feel like yours. They are the hands of a stranger. The hands of a man who has seen the inside of a crematorium, who has eaten his rations next to a dead friend, who has learned to kill without thinking. People say the war is over. They're wrong. The shooting part is over. The loud part. But the real war, the silent war, is just beginning. It's the war you fight against your own memories every night. It's the war to try to find the 19-year-old boy who went to Europe, knowing he'd never come back. They call you a hero. They call you a survivor. They call you a member of the greatest generation. You look at yourself in the reflection of the dark window and see only the truth. You are a ghost in your own house. And this war you suspect, you will fight alone. For the rest of your life. And so our soldier, our ghost, comes home. He has left the battlefields of Europe for a new, much quieter and more solitary battlefield, that of his own mind. His war did not end on VE Day. It has simply moved inward to a place where there are no armistices and no parades. We have followed you from the promise of a poster to the taste of ashes in Germany, and now we leave you in this haunted silence of peace. Telling the story with all its density, discomfort, and lack of easy heroism is no accident. It is the mission of this channel. I believe that history is not just made of generals, dates, and strategies. It is made of human experiences. It is made of the smell of mud, of the crushing boredom in a rainy camp, of the bone-chilling fear in a foxhole, and of the invisible scars that people carry forever. My goal here is to go beyond the surface, demystify the narratives we have been sold, and give voice to those who, like our soldier, were the silent cogs in the great events of history. And this is where the pitch comes in. Creating content with this level of research, writing, and depth, immersing yourself for weeks in a single narrative to ensure it's visceral and respectful, requires an immense investment of time and energy. The standard YouTube model often favors what's quick and easy. I want to continue doing the opposite. If you value this type of narrative, dense, immersive, and without compromise, if you believe that these stories of ordinary people deserve to be told with this care, and if you want to help me continue producing sagas like this, please consider becoming a supporter of the channel. There are a few ways to do this. You can become an official member here on YouTube by clicking the Become a Member button, or you can support me through my Patreon, linked in the description. Every little contribution, no matter how small, makes a huge difference. It buys me the most precious commodity of all, time. Time to research, time to write, and time to make sure the next journey we take together is as profound as this one. Regardless of anything, I am immensely grateful to each and every one of you who followed this saga until the end. Your attention is the greatest support I could ask for. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What other untold stories from a historical period would you like to see explored in this level of detail? If you enjoyed this, please like and share. It helps immensely in bringing these stories to more people. That's all for now. Take care, and until the next saga. And until the next...
You